Bangladesh. So basically, here I will be going to discuss the My Village, My Town initiative. The My Village, My Town initiative was taken by the present Awami League government back in 2018. They had mentioned about it in their election manifesto. So before going in depth about the My Village, My Town initiative, I would like to discuss some major points about the rural characteristics of our country. About 61% of the population in our country resides in rural areas. So there has been many kinds of problems in the rural areas of our country, like infrastructure development and planning. There is infrastructure deficiency. There is agricultural and climate change problems. There are also human resource development related problems, and also education and healthcare related facilities related problem. Also waste management problem, inadequate sanitation and management facilities, and poor connectivity or road facilities is a major problem in our country. So the present Awami League government had mentioned in its 2018 election manifesto that they will take a large scale project named My Village, My Town. And the intention of this project was to provide modern urban amenities in the rural areas of Bangladesh. And also one of the major objective of this My Village, My Town initiative was to develop village communities with the help of the rural people who will help in solving problems in rural areas of Bangladesh. So, to implement this project, the government had selected 8 villages from 8 divisions and 7 specialized villages from different regions like Borendro regions, Chor regions, Howard regions. So all in all, they took 15 villages to implement this project. These selected villages were called pilot villages. So the main in this paper, what I have tried to analyze, what I and my co-author have tried to analyze is the components of the My Village, My Town initiative. The basic components of the My Village, My Town initiative is the rural communication facilities. The rural communication facilities is not well developed in every area, in every rural area of Bangladesh. The growth centers and rural markets, the rural growth centers and markets are not at the economic hub of the villages. Also, rural water supply and rural sanitation facilities are not well occupied. Waste management services are not good. So the government wants to address this problem and solve these problems through the My Village, My Town initiative. The government had taken clean village, clean country motto, and they want to solve this problem through the My Village, My Town initiative. Public space and recreational facilities. The government want to create mini theaters, mini auditoriums in every rural areas of Bangladesh. Also, they want to build a capacity or facilities for rural housing, and they also want to create master plan for each and every single upazila. Enhancing the so these were the initiatives that were taken through the My Village, My Town initiative. So the My Village, My Town initiative assesses the impact of project on rural communities in Bangladesh, and also it tries to analyze between the project and existing power structure within these rural communities. So let's understand the existing rural power structure in Bangladesh and how it will help the government to implement the My Village, My Town initiative. To understand, to go through this research, we had some literature gap. We didn't had many existing literature regarding My Village, My Town initiative. So we had gone through some of the existing literatures, and through some comprehensive analysis and literature review, we have completed this research. So overview of the My Village and My Town initiative suggests that the rural communication facilities, growth centers, rural water supply and rural sanitation, these are the sectors that the government wants to address through this initiative. And Here I will be talking about the local power structure in Bangladesh's rural areas. Bangladesh's rural local power structure can be categorized in two categories, statutory and official. Statutory is the official, statutory or the official is the combination of where there is an elected chairman and other elected members in a union parishad, and unofficial are the rural landlords, money lenders, and how they can help to implement the My Village My Town initiative, or what could be the hindrance from their side to implement a large scale project like My Village My Town. This is what we have tried to identify. So rural local power structure can have some benefits or have some role to play in rural development, like they can participate in decision making process. The official members who are the elected chairmen or the official members of the union parishad, reaching development facilities, they can also conflict resolution. The money lenders or the landlords, they can help to conflict any kind of resolution. In time of disaster management, the unofficial persons like money lenders or landlords, they can help to help the government to management the post-disaster situation. Also, they can help to protect human rights and civil rights. Women's empowerment can be generated through the implementation of this project, and we can also use the local resources properly through the implementation of this project. Problems in the local rural power structure is that we face political obstacles in almost every sector of our country. So the political obstacles will be a big problem. Also the administrative complexity, as it is not well defined in case of villages. So it will be another problem while implementing the My Village My Town project. Economic problems will be a big issue, as there would as in Bangladesh, the political power and other things matters a lot. Leadership crisis will be another big problem, because the village politics is not well organized. Lack of education in the village people is another problem. The leaders are not well educated, and superstition, this could be also a big problem in Bangladesh rural local power structure, and these things can create hindrance in implementing the My Village My Town project. So analyzing the proposals and the visions of the My Village My Town project under the rural local power structure of Bangladesh, we have identified the informal side of the rural local power structure can ensure people's participation in any kind of development project. Existing structure helps with conflict resolution, helps to create a linkage between the rural people and the government, and also to somewhat extent I believe that the implementation of My Village My Town project will bridge the gap between the rural people and the government. So some of the recommendations that we'd like to suggest through our research is that enhance the capacity of rural local power structure. The union parishad and upajila parishads, they should be given more freedom and more decision making power to implement a large scale project like My Village My Town. Also, women's participation in this kind of project will help the women to become self-reliant, and will give them a work opportunity or good, and also will improve their standards of living. And the land ownership element would be a big factor in case of implementing My Village My Town project, as the government would need a lot of lands, and as they would need to acquisition land. So the land ownership element would be a big factor. Without land acquisition, the implementation of this project would not be possible. So in this in all these sectors, the government should take some initiatives and close the gaps between the landowners and themselves, and also they should train the women, and they should also give some proper facilities and freedoms. They should enhance the facilities and freedoms to the upajila parishads and union parishads. So in conclusion, I would like to state that the My Village My Town initiative have some positive sides, and both the My Village My Town initiative have really positive sides for the development of Bangladesh, and also it can help to Bangladesh achieve the goal of a developed country. But under the existing rural local power structure of our country, there are some negative sides and some positive aspects in our country which might the government address, and the government, if the government takes necessary steps, they might find it a bit easier to implement this project. That's all I had, and I would like to thank my co-author Munira Fustiti. Thank you, everyone.
Many thanks to Mr. Ahad Hussain Rion for presenting an excellent presentations. We'll go through all the presentations at first and then come to the discussion and the other remarks. So I would request all the audience to keep your queries and comments, and we will come back to these queries after all the presentations will be held. So now I would request Mr. Abir Arnab. He is going to present smart cities and green spaces, an investigation of the relationship between urban planning and environmental quality. Mr. Abir Arnab.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Abir Arnab, undergraduate student, Russia University of Engineering and Technology, Department of Urban and Regional Planning. First of all, I am very much privileged and honored enough to have the opportunity to present here in front of all the learned persons and have the opportunity to present something before you. My today's presentation topic is smart cities and green spaces, a investigation of the relationship between urban planning and environmental quality. Now, the rapid urbanization of Dhaka city has resulted in the environmental challenges and threats that ultimately results into the degradation of the quality of life of the inhabitants. In the response of this, a theme of smart cities have evolved, but it is yet to discover that what is the connection or relationship or interdependency between the smart cities, green space, and urbanization technique. Feeling this is an essence of the reality. Our research take part, and we started the initiative to investigate on this. That is the background of our study. Now we have three specific objectives. Firstly, to investigate the current policy and institutional framework, then to explore the relationship between urban planning, smart cities, and environmental quality by conducting a comparative analysis compared with the already developed and smart cities around the world, and lastly, to assess the perception of residents regarding the relationship between the urban planning, smart cities, and environmental quality by conducting a direct survey. This study have a limitless scope actually, but if I want to point this out, we can say that the study focuses on the urban planning and its connection to smart cities and the environmental quality. The study will look at the institutional and policy frameworks. Then urban regions will be setting for the investigation. Like other studies, we also have some specific limitations. The example we are setting in Dhaka city may not be applicable for other cities of Bangladesh with the likes of Rajshahi, Khulna, Chittagong. And the poll may include flaws, including social desirability biases and self-report bias. Because the study is mostly based on the direct interviews and questionnaire survey of the resident of Dhaka city. Okay, the methodology, we have followed a mixed method approach that combines qualitative and quantitative research techniques. The following techniques will be used in the study. First of all, reviewing, then comparative analysis. We have direct surveys, then interviews, data analysis, the studies preview, and the study challenges. Okay, first of all, the survey. A questionnaire was formed, and the essential information that are collected were the demographic details, the perception of the city's environment, the environmental effect of urban planning and smart cities as perceived by the public, perception of how green space help to improve the environment, perception of the benefits and challenges of utilizing green areas in urban development within the cities. Then the interviews, we have taken a brief short interviews. Coming on to the result and discussion part. First of all, the survey results. We have conducted a survey of around 500 residents. Though our site area is Dhaka city, but due to many limitations, we only conducted this survey within the Uttara Model Town area, and we have chosen 500 residents, and the medium of the questionnaire survey was completely online. The key findings of this survey was like the majority of the respondents, nearly 78% of people perceive that the current state of the environment in this city are poor. They conclude that the city they are living is in poor condition, while only 22% people say that it is good having Dhaka as their main living city. Then again, a total of 68% of the respondents believe that the urban planning and smart cities have a negative impact on the environment, while 32% believe that it had a positive impact. Again, a majority of the respondents, 87% believe that the green spaces played a crucial role in the promoting environmental quality in the city. Then in the next step of the resultant discussion, the comparative analysis result. The sample cities we have chosen are the already developed and established cities of the world, London, Singapore, and Tokyo. The comparative analysis revealed the following: the policy and the strategy included promoting the use of renewable energy resources, public transport, and green roofs. The opportunities identified included the potential to improve air quality, promote biodiversity, and promote social cohesion. And lastly, the interview result shows us the lack of space for green space and the inadequate funding, planning, and management of green space in urban area, and the potential to improve air quality, promote biodiversity, and promote social cohesion. To discuss and to summarize the study here, the first point, the focus is on the first point. The people are beginning to understand how crucial green space are to fostering the environmental quality and sustainable in smart city. If I tell a story, when I was in class 9, in around 2014, we had a school project of in business idea. We are proposing them that we will be providing plantation in different. In the roof, we will use a rooftop plantation, and we will give them some incentives, and we will take some. It is a business project, but when we run the pilot project and go to the door to door, most of the house owners and stakeholders, they refused us because they thought it is not feasible enough or not that much important to them in that time. But when as I have to stay in Rajshahi for my study, when I came to visit my house in Uttara, I passed the same road and I see on the building top, and I can find that the very houses the owners declined to have the green spaces is now planting the trees and many small plants in their roof themselves. Then, unfortunately, the absence of funding, political will, and coordination among the various stakeholders frequently makes it difficult to put these policies and plan to action. During our interviews, many house owners or many regulators also told us that it will be very much helpful or beneficial if there is any central rules or funding or any plans regarding the Dhaka city or in any short area within the Dhaka city. Then again, there are some worries concerning the accessibility, security, and upkeep the parks in the community, and the development and management of green space using cutting-edge technology to monitor and manage green space. Lastly, to conclude, I want to say that the city's rapid urbanization has led to a number of environmental issues that are endangering inhabitants' quality of life. A potential response to this issue, the idea of smart city has evolved. Then the significance of the community involvement in the design and administration of green areas is emphasized in this study. This was the aim and goal of our study. Here's the references. Thank you for your patience.
Many thanks to Mr. Abir Arnob, who was presenting Smart Cities and Green Spaces, an investigation of the relationship between urban planning and environmental quality. Abir, you can take your seat, please. Yeah. Thank you. Now I would invite Ms. Bipasha Akhtar to present our next presentations, titled as Exploring the Nexus Between Urbanization, Land Use Planning and Environmental Sustainability from Bangladesh Context.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Bipasha Akhtar. Now I am going to start my presentation. Okay, my presentation topic is exploring the nexus between urbanization, land use planning and environmental sustainability from Bangladesh context. Here is the background of our study. These difficulties are further compounded by poor land use planning approach that fails to account for the intricate relationship between urbanization and the environment. We have two objectives. The first one is to determine the main issues with urban land use planning in Bangladesh and how to affect the environmental sustainability. And the second one is to determine the feasibility plans for fostering sustainable development through urban planning in Bangladesh. Here we can see that the scopes of our study, the relationship between urbanization, land use planning, and environmental sustainability in Bangladesh areas. The study will shed light on the difficulties and possibilities surrounding land use planning. Limitation of the study shows that the study will only concentrate on Bangladesh's cities. Its conclusion might not apply to other areas or nations. This slide shows the methodology of our study. Bangladesh is a small, low-lying country located in South Asia. There will be two key phases to data collection process. There are two main steps in data analysis process. These are the qualitative information gathered from the focusing group discussion and interviews. The second one is the focus group in discussion and interview transcript will be examined using thematic analysis methodologies. This study will abide by ethical principles and norms of good research practice. The study will only use qualitative data. Here we can see that result and discussion. The first one is general findings. The nation's pace of urbanization has been quickly expanding over the previous few decades. And the second one is quantitative analysis. The built-up area expanded by 51% between 2000 and 2020. The expansion of built-up area has come at the expense of wetlands, wood, and agricultural land. And the third one is qualitative analysis. Socio-economic difficulties such as poor access to fundamental utilities like water and sanitation, a dense population, and inadequate housing. And the last one is discussion. The relationship between urbanization, land use planning, and environmental sustainability is completed and multidimensional. Considerable changes in land use have resulted from rapid urbanization. And here we can see the conclusion of our study. In urban regions of Bangladesh, the study showed to investigate the relationship between urbanization, land use planning, and environmental sustainability. Bangladesh's first urbanization has placed enormous strain on the nation's ecosystem and land resources. The research offers insightful information about the crucial relationship between urbanization, land use planning, and environmental sustainability in Bangladesh's cities. This slide shows the reference of our study. That's all from me. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bipasha Akhtar, for presenting your presentations on exploring the nexus between urbanization, land use planning, and environmental sustainability from Bangladeshi context. Now, this is the last presentation for this session. This is from Sayeda Shautin. She will present assessment of physical accessibility of government primary and secondary schools in rural areas of Bangladesh. Co-authors of her paper is B.M. Asaduzzaman Noor, Muhammad Shibbir Hussain, and Muhammad Mizanur Rahman.
Hello everyone, I am Sayeda Shaulin. I am presenting here on behalf of my group. Now I am presenting a paper titled Assessment of Physical Accessibility of Government Primary and Secondary Schools in Rural Areas of Bangladesh. Now see the background of the study. We all know that ensuring educational opportunity is a basic human rights of all nations. A nation's ability to access in education largely depends on for the demand for education both for the community level and household level. And different factors that are responsible largely impact on the accessibility of educational institutions. And these factors are population density, per capita income, road condition, and the locations of school. And basically in rural areas, in developing countries facing more difficulties to attend their schools, and most of the rural students even do not finish their elementary primary school. And students from rural background are backward from the urban background due to their geographical isolation, their socio-economic violation, and lack of transportation services. And now we can see the literature review. To validate our study result, we studied some of papers, and one study conducted in Morocco 1994, and the study result showed that paved roads increased mobility in rural areas. And some study results shows that investment in adequate investment in road sectors increased accessibility, mobility, regional connectivity, and raise production. And another study conducted in Indonesia shows that due to some socio-economic barriers, largely affect on the percentage of school attendance rate. And there are so many studies existing worldwide covering this issue, but in case of Bangladesh, there are limited study conducted in that issue. That's why we focused this topic. And to conduct this study, we fixed one objective, and the objective is the study examine government primary and secondary school accessibility in 10 different sub-districts, considering travel time, travel cost, and travel distance. And to conduct this study, we surveyed 315 primary and secondary school going students from 21 different villages. And we conduct face-to-face questionnaire survey to collect different data like locations of a school, travel time that is needed to reach the school, transportation cost, and what transportation mode used by the student, and the road condition of those selected villages. And this is the study area map, and map showing 21 different villages across 10 different sub-districts of Bangladesh. And this is the methodological framework. And firstly, we prepared a well-organized questionnaire then to collect data. And after collecting the data, we conducted different statistical analysis like mean, percentage of the survey data using Excel. And last of all, we calculate accessibility index using 3 different parameters like average travel distance, travel time, and travel cost. And this is the formula followed we calculated accessibility index for 21 different villages. And for this formula where TD, TT and TC refers to average travel distance, travel time, and travel cost. And W1, W2, and W3 refers to the scale on a score between 1 to 5, where 1 represents lowest priority and high, and 5 represent highest priority. And the accessibility result shows that a village with highest accessibility index represent that children of those villages faces more difficulties to attain their schools, and villages with lower accessibility index indicate that inhabitants of those villages face less difficulties to reach their primary or secondary school. And this is the survey result, and the result shows that most of the villages from most of the students from some villages travel almost less than 0.5 kilometer to reach their school, but some of them travel more than 2 kilometers due to get better schooling facilities. And some villages like Tansara and Kasabari village, students have to travel less than 1 kilometer. But those students who travel less than 0.5 kilometer, they usually have to travel through CNG or auto rickshaw. But in cases of some villages like Baburel, Dobashia, and Bansari Union, students have to travel longer distance, and in that case they have to pay at least 20 taka for their minibus service. And for their minibus, and this is the percentage of all the survey data that we collected. And this is the accessibility. This table shows the accessibility index value for 21 particular villages. And this is the accessibility result. And the accessibility result shows that Madhaikama, Shundulpur, Pitambordi, Lamsori, and Baluchar village have lower accessibility index, and that means that village face less difficulties, and the road condition of those villages have better surface condition. But in case of other villages like Dobashia, Dhamura of Borishal district, Kanshai of also Borishal district, Nondirai and Shaunia Union have highest accessibility index, but inhabitants of those villages face more difficulties, and government have to construct more primary and secondary school to those villages. And if we see the conclusion, then it is noticed that from the survey data, around 83% primary school going student walk less than 0.5 kilometer for their primary school services, and almost 62% secondary school going children walk less than 1 kilometer for their secondary school services. And another important findings from our survey data, that is Lamsori and Baluchor villages of Chakpur district have lack of secondary schools within 4 kilometers. And the students of those villages have to travel larger distance for their secondary school facilities. And we further recommend government and our concerned authority have need to keep more concern about those villages according to their priority basis. Thank you.
Many thanks to Shaida Shaolin for presenting her paper on assessment of physical accessibility of government primary and secondary schools in rural areas of Bangladesh. Now I would go to the discussions of these sessions. I would first request to planner Shahriar Amin Bhai. You have learned and listened to all the 4 presentations, and if you speak a few words on the 4 presentations, just for a quick review, just I recap all the 4 titles for your understanding. First one was in-depth evaluation of the My Village, My Town initiative. Second was on smart cities and green spaces, relationship between urban planning and environmental quality. Third one was exploring the nexus between urbanization, land use planning, and environmental sustainability. And the last one was assessment of physical accessibility of government primary schools. Shahriar Amin Bhai, please.
Thank you, Adil. Welcome to our participants, our paper presenters, and our distinguished guest discussants. Welcome. First of all, I thank to all the researchers to present their research papers. Within very short time, we actually observed, we see your paper, so we don't go much in depth in these papers. But we try to figure out some insights, some positiveness, or some issues that may you can consider in your future activities. We just point out these things, nothing more than that. First of all, My Village, My Town. It's a mass announced program in Bangladesh now, you know. So actually I expect something more from this research paper. If you know, this idea comes from the government of the India. They actually initiated these things in their country and try to implement few letters and then stop the program. However, we picked this idea and incorporate in our vision paper, and now the government already completed a TA project. So I expect the name of the TA project and some findings from that. So far I don't find those things. However, the paper actually tried to look after the components that actually clearly spell out in the project documents and initiatives, and which is very important, the local power structure. They are actually, they will implement these things. In this regard, I would like to point out something. To implement any project in our country, we need to figure out some things. The institutional structure, those should have some diversified quality. Some have technical quality that they actually implement the project, and then management quality, the governance. So in this study paper, point out basically the governance structure, that means Union Parishad and Grameen. But if we look after our rural power structure or the institutional structure, you see the district Parishad, then the Upazila Parishad. Upazila Parishad actually complies with government departments. Upazila Parishad is elected body. They will actually monitor and cooperate by government departments. So far, I guess 20 to 13 attached departments. They will work attached and work for whole of the Upojela. The Upojela is comprised of Union Porishad, or 5 to 10 or 15 Union Porishad makes a Upojela. And every Union Porishad actually distributed with so many villages. So in our country, shape, figure, number of villages very challenges. Around 87,000 villages in Bangladesh. And the shape of the villages is very diversified. Roundabout, circular, steep, and so many things. Because of their formation, because of their geography, because of their topography. So it's very challenge. And another issue is, if you see, what we want in this, through this project, My Village Bound Out, actually urban utilities and amenities to the villages. Urban utilities and amenities actually provided through specific government agencies. For example, if you want to access the water service, DPHE, Department of Public Health Engineering is responsible for that. For road communication, LGED is responsible for that. That means every kind of service, health department is responsible for that. Every department works according to their line ministry. And at the Upojela level, they are somehow coordinated with Upojela Porishad. But in Bangladesh, there is no mechanism at Union Porishad and village level how they would be coordinated. That's the real challenge of this project. In the near future, LGD actually implementing TA project, and now they are going to implement a project that mentioned in this project. But this project actually identified some challenges, what they will face during this implementation. So I request the researcher, you can care of these issues in the future, how can accommodate these things, how can our power structure. The Union Porishad don't have any technical capacity to implement any kind of projects actually. And village level, we don't have any setup. So how can we address all these issues in future to implement such kind of project? This is very important questions. And the second presentation, Smart Cities and Green Space Vision. That's a very good topic, very important topic and very essential topic for our present scenario. But I need to know something more. The study actually, there's a method, the policy review, the institutional review and assessment of present condition. But I don't find, may I miss or skip something, the later policy review things and institutional. We have so many acts and policies about environmental issues. And institutions also, Department of Environment, and in some issues, city corporation, other institutions already responsible to take care of some issues. So what they have already addresses in this research or not, I don't know. But the study area, actually the sample mainly collected from Uttora residential area. That's very interesting because Uttora residential area is, Dhaka city, apart from the government placements, only for 30 or 40% area actually planned residential area. Uttora is one of them. So it could be better if we can collect our samples from a portion from Uttora, a residential area, and a sample from unplanned area, as like Kajipara, Shaurapara, or Mugdapara, or others. Those have no green area actually. If you go Uttora, you will find so many park, so many playground, as these are planned area. And it's very interesting that people say, 68% people say negative relation between urban planning and green space. It indicates that people, actually they understand the issues or not. What does it mean? Because 68% respondents say, am I correct? 68% people say the urban planning actually don't work with green space or nothing. It's very interesting. I request the researcher to find out why people actually respond like this. This is not usual. Especially when they actually live in the planned area. They facilitate the green space and other issues. That's for this presentation. And the third presentation, nexus between urbanization, land use planning, and environmental sustainability. That's very good topic. But, the researchers said they actually consider all the cities of Bangladesh, though they don't mention what number of cities they actually considers. We know Bangladesh presently, urban areas is around 500. So do you consider all the 500 towns or not? And what does land use planning means in your research paper? If you consider these things in the future, it would be better. And urbanization. In these, I have the opportunity to read some research papers in this event. I see a tendency among our researchers that they actually consider build-up area as urbanization or urban area. Please don't do that. Built-up area is different things, urban area is different things. And in Bangladesh, urban area is defined by the government, a specific area. So if we haphazardly use urbanization and build-up area, people may divert other things. I request you to spell out clearly which is build-up area. We actually consider rural area also a build-up area. But rural area not consider the urbanization process or other things. So please take care of these things in your future studies. And the fourth presentation, assessment of physical accessibility of primary and secondary. It's a very interesting and good exercise. And the researcher actually, we find that the 21 villages in 9 districts, but I don't find what number of primary schools or secondary schools actually you accommodate in your, or consider in your research. You can spell out these things. And another issue, I find a very positive things in your findings that secondary schools in Chatpur, so far I can remember, there is one village, they don't have any secondary school, around 4 kilometers. But apart from these things, what are the findings? Is there any relation? You can find out any relation between less accessibility and attendance. Those schools who are less accessible or face very difficulties in accessibility, the percentage of people, students less or high, that can add your research paper more value. And another issue is, I request you to consider in your future research, you now look after the physical accessibility means road connectivity and other things. But another important issue is in the school building. You know, in our school building, 2 floor, 3rd, 3 floor, 4th floor. What about the physically challenged people who cannot move independently? How can he or she can get into the school? How can he move from 1st floor to 2nd floor, 4th floor to 10th floor? We have some policies in our education policy, in our IET. Whether our authorities take care of these policies, are they build their school buildings where the physically challenged people can enter freely, move freely, or not? There is a scope to take care of these issues. However, I again thank you all to take these issues, and all of our participants here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
A lot of thanks to Planner Saeed Shahriar Amin Bhai for your specific and detailed comments on every presentation. I would sure the presenters will take note of your comments and suggestions. And now I will request Nayotka Martinez Beckstrom. She is First Secretary, Deputy Head of Development, Cooperation, Embassy of Sweden. You have noticed all the presentations and the observations from Shahriar Bhai as well. And now I would request Ms. Nayotka Martinez Beckstrom.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can I just say that I agree to everything he says?
Yeah.
No, we're free. We're done. No. Yeah. Yeah, so I am not a planner, which is good. I am an urbanist, so there is a bias there for me, but I'm a development cooperation professional That is how I would describe myself, with an urban bias, right? I appreciated the topics that were presented through the 4 papers, because each one of them has actually an importance or high relevance to the whole practice of planning, right? So even the choice of, let's say, looking at how this My Village, My Town, rural development, and how issues around governance and institutional arrangement is supposed to deliver on better infrastructure. That is that can go back to a planning question as well. Smart cities and the link with the urban planning, then land use and planning. So all of these are really accessibility. That is very important for planners as well. One thing that has been like pinging on my head, being here, listening to everything that was being discussed the whole day today, was the word disconnect. You know, even with the way we would discuss things or we would approach things, somehow we have to be aware of the fact that we tend to disconnect what we are focusing on with other things. So for example, the issue of looking at the village and its value to rural development. I mean, we look at the village as a unit in itself, and we have to be aware that we shouldn't limit it as that. The village is a village, and it grows, or it develops based on its connectedness with other things, the nearest growth center, the nearest market, for example. So somehow we cannot just look at these things as very static, limited spaces. It's the same with, the whole idea of planning, that it's so disconnected with other types of plans. We know that spatial plans, they are so dependent on land use plans, for example. And they're also so connected with our own national and local development planning practices. But somehow we tend to, try to choose one over the other and prioritize based on that. So when we look at the allocation of resources, when we're in this implementation mode, we actually see that even the allocation of resources is somehow disconnected with what we are planning. So we have, when we are, putting out these papers, we have to be, communicating to that, that our urban planning practices is so disconnected with the way government plans and allocates to different to different districts and upazilas and unions. The other thing is that going to this issue of being like a static, when we do research, we try to broadly say this is the situation here, but actually the whole issue of disaster vulnerability, climate vulnerability, this is all changing at this very moment. It's changing the way our upazilas, our unions, our districts are. And we have to be really keen to investigate these kinds of changes brought about by the high vulnerability of Bangladesh. And if you look at the different maps we have, you have the poverty map that many of us who work with urban development programs here in Bangladesh, we have this poverty map, and if we juxtapose that with the disaster vulnerability map and the climate vulnerability map, somehow, it's the same districts, the same upazilas that seem to be appearing in the red, So we have to be able to differentiate this context when we are trying to make broad recommendations about better policies or better strategies to the government. I like the studies that refer to governance and institutional arrangements and structures, because this is a huge problem that we constantly encounter. I mean, when we as planners, we have this advantage of looking at the looking across sectors. We as planners, we are not so limited to specific sectors alone. So we have to use that advantage of the planning tool to bring together a number of elements, a number of things, right? But that is not what our institutions have. Our institutions have limited mandates, they have limited budgets, they have limited capacities. So if you are dealing with, let's say, a huge government agency like the LGD, for example, you will be looking at people who will think in terms of, let's say, maybe roads or bridges or culverts or something. They will not have the understanding that we as now I'm saying we as planners, that that planners would have to actually, look at the bigger picture and look at the interconnectedness of many other issues, spatial, operational, you name it. Okay, and then the other issue that I have after listening to all the presentations is how little importance the planning profession seems to enjoy here in Bangladesh. In many other countries, if you say you're a planner, you're like, wow. You're super important in decision making. You're super important when there's a case being filed against some big developer. You're very important when there's discussions about the law and how this is being practiced. So I think your research, when you continue with this work, has to uplift the profession of the planner. Because it's so important. You are like many of our spatial plans, our land use plans, these are like the basis for longer term visioning that we should be having around our cities and about our urban centers and all. So without that appreciation of the profession and the tools that we have as planners, I mean, we can't have this longer term perspective on development. Everything will just be like projectized. And I was having a nice discussion over lunch today, and we were talking about this huge infrastructure like the Padma Bridge. And how everyone was just so focused on the fact that there was this beautiful piece of infrastructure that was actually built. What is not so highlighted is the fact that it has brought about so much more than just a flashy infrastructure. There was so much development that is happening as a result of having an important infrastructure like this. So, I mean, as a planner, you can actually communicate the benefits of this bigger infrastructure in terms of what the longer term perspective of development should be like in this country, and also how it would mean for not just the development of, let's say, Khulna city, but the larger district or the larger region. Because this is what we can work with. We can work with plans that address development at different scales, for example. And so we can sort of like navigate between the most local development vision to the most national. And that is the advantage of that is the training and the discipline that planning has actually is teaching us. So I will stop there before, and I hope I have contributed to this discussion. Thank you.
That's great. Many thanks to hear from urbanist Ms. Nayaka Martinez, and she has advocated for the importance of planning. So glad of you. We are running out of time, but before going to our chair, Professor Kalam, I would take some few questions or comments or queries from the audience, if anyone is interested to have some points. Yeah, please.
Assalamu alaikum. In first paper, I think the upper tiers are missing. You should coordinate the village plan with the upper tiers, the structure plan, regional plan, national plan. It should be identified clearly. And in the perspective plan, our government stated clearly the my village, my town concept. It should be stated in this papers. And the second two papers, smart city and green cities and the urban planning and green space, we should consider the eco-town concept. Internationally, it is very well-known concept, eco-town concept. The eco-town should be, it should be considered the natural settings, the critical areas. If you design Patharghata plan, there is a ECA area. You should consider this. And in these two papers, you should survey the flora and fauna in urban planning, and ACE, strategic environmental assessment. In worldwide, it is well practiced now in urban planning. The ACA, strategic environmental assessment. You should state your paper these ideas also. Thank you.
Many thanks. Any other comments to add on, please?
Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the presenters that they have illuminated us and brought out a lot of areas which are primarily based on the data from the field level. And also, I would like to congratulate and the discussion that they have talked about all the issues that the presenters have dealt with, especially the first discussion. Adil sir, he basically went, the presentation, by presentation, and the second one, you talked about the in general issues as far as environment and plannings are concerned. So I have some observation on the presentations. I have some specific suggestions for them. Since I have done my PhD on urban green infrastructure, so from that point of ideas I want to share with the presenters. The first one is the topic is basically he mentioned about a project by the government, that is My Village, My Town initiative. That is absolutely a very talked about project by the Awami League government. And so far I can remember that he mentioned about the aim, the assess of the impact of local power structure. But I feel like he also mentioned some of the key challenges related to infrastructure, related to the power structure. But it seems to me that the more of he missed about the key components that based on this issue, the government elaborated the project. And the first discussant has already mentioned that it has been developed based on the ideas and the motto followed from the government. So I think the basic framework that the author needs to follow from India also include another component, that education, because since it is implied on the rural areas, because to the rural areas, the motto is to make, to increase the urban facilities and turn into a city vibe or city flavor. So I think education is must, and he can suggest that we should promote education to be really smart the rural areas. The second presentation, I would like to focus some of the key areas. He tried to show the linkage between the smart cities and the green spaces. Obviously, it is a very emerging issue nowadays, because we are having a lot of population and we are decreasing the urban space, urban greenery areas. So I have a few observations for him. That first one, he needs to incorporate how to measure the component of the smart city, because so far my understanding that we are lag behind in terms of the ideas which is been conveyed in the western part, that is so-called smart city. And he based on the Uttara areas, and he relied on the 500 surveys people. But I think Uttara is not, not the standard. We can call it as like smart city, probably he can include in his paper the best practices. He can take some of the examples from the, Singapore, where they are also struggling the urban space like Bangladesh. The third presentation is basically, try to find out the nexus among urbanization, planning, and environment. But I would request him to focus on the particular area. For instance, because he, talked about the in general discussion, but I agree with the first discussion that he needs to focus on the particular district or particular areas, because Bangladesh, whenever you select the country, it's like completely vast, and sometimes you get lost because you have to narrow down the scope of the research. And the final one is absolutely fantastic, the physical accessibility of Bangladesh primary school and secondary school. Definitely it is now a burning issue, education, but I couldn't understand that which area, which year she conducted this survey, or which area she collected the data. I would like to know from her that COVID-19 has a great ramification on the education sector, and it has a great adverse impact on the SDG vision that we are supposed to meet by 2030. So I think because in COVID-19, physical accessibility was not there, and digital accessibility was the prime concern. I think she might incorporate to, brought out all the diversified issues. Having said so, I would limit my deliberation here. Thank you so much.
Could you share your name, please?
I'm Dr. Razia. I work under BIS, under Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for your detailed observation, and I must thank Planner Tariqujaman Bhai for his excellent comments on the papers. And we are running out of time. We could not afford any more questions or queries. Now, I would request the chair of this session, Planner Professor Dr. A.K. Abul Kalam sir. He was former president of Bangladesh Institute of Planners and a professor of Urban Region and Planning Department. Dear sir.
Thank you, Dr. Adil Muhammad Khan, for moderating nicely this session. And our discussion, honorable discussion, Shahriar Amin, and Nayoka Martinez Backstrom. Is correct? Okay, thank you. And respected and knowledgeable audience, thank you for being present and listen to the presentations. I especially thank to our four young, not four, many, in fact, presenters to have the courage to present their papers in front of this august audience. I believe you all are all presented the research which you actually did in your academic area, yeah, academic arena, in fact, yeah. So thank you for helping us to have some information, some research outputs from your works. As I find all these papers, all these researches can be developed well, but however, you have enlightened us with your topics that you have selected. These are important topics and related, not fully, but partially to the theme of this session. I think the population dynamics are absent, and we haven't any paper that says anything about population dynamics. So we would have been benefited if we have a paper. Yeah, that's right. So, but we have some issues on sustainable urban and regional planning, not mass and regional planning again, but we have at least a rural a research on in the rural context, which I believe I can take it, or we can take it as something within the domain of regional planning, as regional planning takes into consideration of the both urban areas and the rural areas. So let me have some, or a very few comments. I think we have already learned from our two August discussions many issues that could be covered with your papers. Obviously, my village, my town is a very important topic, and we are hoping to achieve a lot through the implementation of this idea, my village, my town. Definitely, we have weaknesses in our local structure, institutional structure. So we need to do much in this respect, how to implement this important, which is going to be a document, the Upazila-based master plan, incorporating my village, my town. So definitely we will require an institutional structure to implement this master plan. And now it has many issues we need to address through my village, my town. You have chosen a particular area that is institutional structure which can be feasible to implement this great idea of my village, my town through the Upazila master plan. So we definitely will require a structure at the local level that will be conducive to implement this my village, my town. But what I see that in all papers you could introduce the topic a little more in depth, and that would have favored you in the analysis of your information. In paper 2, smart cities, again a very important topic. Smart cities has a meaning, and it has, you should have informed us about the smart city. What is a smart city? However, you have worked with the environmental aspects, which is very important to have or to achieve a smart city. So, so in your, I believe in your future paper, you will go into more details, incorporating the components of that a smart city deals with. So, and that will help your paper to be an excellent one. In Natasha's paper, nexus between urbanization, urban land use planning, and environmental sustainability. It's a very good paper. If a relationship can be developed, it will be a very good paper. But I see that you need to go into more detail and in-depth work on this paper. But you are young. It's your first work, I believe. So I hope you will definitely enhance the quality of the paper. And our discussants have pointed out about the inputs that could be added to your paper. This is a good work, physical accessibility of primary and secondary schools. That is very important, and for both urban and rural areas. But this is a good work, I would say, and definitely could be developed further. In general, and I will have now some general discussion on the theme of today's session. So, population. Actually, we missed this because we had a discussion. Taibur Rahman, Dr. Taibur Rahman, who was supposed to present a keynote speech here on the theme. So, population. We know the population characteristics of Bangladesh. So urban area, rural area, and in the regional context, the population is an important component. Because and for the planners, population is very important. So we plan primarily based on the population size and population distribution, and what would happen to the population. So for any kind of planning, we need projections. We understand the present distribution, and we do projections, and then we plan for the purpose of preparing a master plan or any other plans. And urban regional planning addresses both urban area and rural areas. And we know that conceptually regional planning came to address the lagging areas. So initially in the Western world, particularly in France. So regional planning can address many issues. We have differences among our regions. Although we don't practice seriously regional planning in Bangladesh, however, our divisions are taken into consideration that whenever we need some issues to be addressed regionally, we normally consider that divisions are important. So for population size, for economic development, characteristics, like economic characteristics, population characteristics. So we could have some good papers in this on this theme. So with that, I think, however, with our 4 presentations, the session has been lively, and especially with our discussants who have made valuable considerations, valuable comments on this. From the floor, 2 remarks, which is very important, I would say. You commented very well on the requirement of research, particularly. So thank you all.
Many thanks to Professor Dr. Kalam sir, our chair of this session, for his excellent comments and inspirational words to the presenters. And this session has some lively discussions on interplay of different dynamics in sustainable planning and development. The presenters have rightly discussed about the importance of village planning, country planning, and the challenges of urban open spaces. We all know that our big cities are lacking 25% of urban green spaces that are required, and maximum cities are in between 8 to 10% open spaces that are not important or not adequate for implementing a green space and the sustainable urban environment, and the accessibility issues that has been discussed in terms of primary and secondary schools are also important dynamics for proper planning and distribution of urban facilities and rural facilities, or the social facilities in the urban spectra or the rural spectra. So I again thank you all the paper presenters, discussants, session chairs, and the distinguished audience for your active participation in these sessions. These discussions of this session will have a profound impact on the future endeavors targeting planned and sustainable development of cities and regions through adopting appropriate spatial planning strategies and techniques. With these warm notes, we are concluding this session. I invite you all to participate in the next session of ICRP 2023. Best wishes to everyone. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. We have some souvenirs and praise to the discussants and the chairs of this session.
So we will start next session immediately. So immediately we will start the next session. So kindly remain seated.
Excuse me, sir.
Check.
So we are starting the next session now. Is it already copied? So we are going to start the next session now. Please remain seated. So this session will be urban spaces and their socio-economic impacts. So in this session, so in the tea break, all the guests are there. So I'm asking the volunteers to invite some of the audience just for a couple of. So we have distinguished guests already with us. So Professor Dr. Ainun Nishad, Professor Emeritus, Brack University. And then Mr. Rakibul Amin, Country Representative, IUCN. We have distinguished discussion planner, AKM Riajuddin, Urban Planning Specialist. Unfortunately, we have some guests, they could not come, they are missing today for other engagement. And there are important presentations here. So most importantly, there is a keynote from Malaysian Institute of Planners. So spatial planning for sustainable development, current practice and challenges in Malaysia. So we know that the planning system in Malaysia is much more organized than in Bangladesh. So we will learn from Malaysia, and then there are some technical papers, those were selected. So in the meantime, so I would like to request our chief guest today, Professor Dr. Ainun Nishad, and then respected moderator, Mr. Rakibul Amin, to take the seat in the audience, in the stage. I would also like to request our keynote speaker, Town Planner Dr. Saidi Sood, to take your seat in the stage. And then Planner AKM Riajuddin, panelist. ঠিক আছে So now I would like to hand over to the respected moderator, Mr. Rakibul Amin, country representative of IUCN, to run the session.
So, good afternoon. Our session, parallel session 10, Urban Space and Socio-Economic Impacts. I have the privilege of having Dr. Ainun Nishad as the chair. We also have distinguished speakers. We have a bit of challenge. The session is starting about 1 hour late, and I have a flight to catch, and I'm sure Dr. Nishad is also have other meetings or important time. So we will have to shorten the presentation a little bit. With the permission of chair, may I ask the keynote presenter to finish within 10 minutes, and rest of the speakers, if you can finish by max 8 minutes. Otherwise, then the organizer will have to give us dinner. I guess this is not in part of the menu. So without further ado, with the permission of the chair, let's start. And the keynote presentation, Special Planning for Sustainable Development, Current Practice and Challenges in Malaysia, Dr. Shafia Shuid, Department of Urban and Regional Planning, Malaysian Institute of Planners. Dr. Shuid, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to start the presentations, and to make it faster, I will skip some of the slides. So the title will be Spatial Planning for Sustainable Development, Current Practice and Challenges in Malaysia. How to move. Yeah, how to. Okay. So this is just a overview of what we have done. So planning in Malaysia is not like overnight or over a few years experience. It's more than 100 years. The only thing that I would like to highlight, since 70s, we started to do our ways in terms of how we plan our country. So we no longer follow the traditional way of doing things, of planning in terms of practice by countries like UK or other countries. So we have our own mold in the process, and that shows that how we have go beyond the conventional way of doing things. Of course, we learn from other countries as well, but that's how we started. So most importantly, I think to understand the Malaysian planning system, we have a 3 tiers government as well. So we have a federal, we have a state government. So we have 12 state government in Peninsula and 2 in Borneo Island. So Borneo Island have slightly different planning system, and also laws that govern the planning in Borneo, Sabah and Sarawak. So Peninsula Malaysia basically have a same system. And then of course at the lowest level we have local government. That's why we plan our planning system in the country also according to these three tiers. What bound us together is one act that we established or we created or enacted in 1976 called Town and Country Planning Act. All the planning plans, everything is bound by this act. So that's why we have a similar system everywhere in the country. So if you talk about the national level, we only one national physical plan. At the state level, we have state structure plan, which is for all states. One state have one structure plan only. And at the local level, we have almost 123 local plan. So meaning that all this plan is such a way that we created that it's connected. Earlier presentation meaning that try to explain that disconnected between the plan. So that's why we have a very structured way of managing our planning system and also development plan system. Okay, this is how we arrange that. We have what I call it planning legislation that govern the whole governance of the planning. At the level of federal government, through the Town and Country Planning Department, we have prepared all the manuals, guidelines to be used by all local authorities and also municipalities throughout the country. Meaning that our planning standard is basically organized or prepared in order to have similarities in terms of standards. So no other local authority can come up with their own guidelines. So it's very difficult. So we don't have any what they call it standardization at the local level. And of course we have a national development plan, which is national physical plan, and also we have a development plan at the state and local plan. And most importantly, recently we more embarked into more of information system. So we can share the information not only to the public, government agencies, even students can access all this information. So all plan available online to all people, including the normal people on the street. One thing is important in Malaysia, we have this so-called National Physical Planning Council. The council is chaired by the Prime Minister himself. It was established in 2003. So now they have 42 times already the meeting. What important is the highest level of government and the political master know what's about planning. So they know that what happened in the country in terms of development, plans, everything. So we use this as to buy in the politician, how they accept planners, and also planning that we do in our country. So there's no way, if no politician accept what the planners does, nobody will look at us. So very important. So we managed to make sure that all politicians, especially at the national and state level, know about planning. Okay, I just try to make it faster, this presentation on the planning system. So of course, I mentioned earlier, we have a national physical plan. Contrary to what Bangladeshi try to emulate, our national physical plan not for long-term planning. Actually, it's only for 5 years. And it's in tandem with our economic plan. So meaning that our economic plan is only 5 years, so national physical plan for Malaysia is only for 5 years. So why? Because this must be in line with the economic plan. Because economic plan usually also review after 5 years and they have new one. So physical plan must in line with the economic plan as well. So we work together. So not 20 years. So this is some of the strategy or aspect that this national physical plan look into: national security, toward national nation, improvement of physical infrastructure, and so on. So we have a target, what to achieve. And also we have this, all these elements that strategic direction, strategy. So national physical plan is not like just a physical, but also a strategic direction of the economy and so on. Of course, the name it National Physical Plan is not just a physical, but also other aspect in the country that we need to achieve in the next 5 years. And all the targets, all the strategies must be in line with the, what they call it, SDGs, what they call it, this goal. So we have all these 17 goals. So all our project, all our action must in line with that. And it's not only at the national level, but also at the state and also local level. So this is our main. And of course, from that, we have come up with so many other plans that help our development. And of course, the important one is database. And also we have those for strategic planning in terms of growth center, growth area. Now we shift our development toward East Coast. Because all this while we are talking about West Coast of Peninsula along Kuala Lumpur and that West Coast corridor. So now we have to move toward East Coast, more development toward that side. And of course, this is some of the infrastructure. And of course, we have to make sure that we have protected our coastline and also our forest area. So those is a permanent forest area that we come up with the plan to ensure that will be protected forever. And in fact, we want to increase more in the future. 50% of our country will be covered with forests. And all this plan from the national will be translated into state structure plan. And this is more detailed, used for development control, especially at the district local plan, where all development control done by local authority. So our main counterpart in preparation of this plan is a local council. The fund comes from the federal government, local council, planners and so on must work together to prepare this plan. Of course, the consultant will prepare the plan, but the input, the main stakeholder is the local authority. So they will use this plan to ensure that they implement what they want in the plan. So if they say that this area is supposed to be gazetted as certain use, whenever they apply, developer apply later on, they use this map as a guidance rather than just for study and plan prepared. And of course, we have the lowest one is a spatial area plan, which is more of project-based. This project determines at the local level that the local authority and related government agencies can apply financial what they call it, grant from the federal government. So all this plan will be implemented in line with the district local plan and state structure plan. So meaning that this project will benefit the public and so on. So that's why a lot of projects will be determined at this lowest level. Okay, then we'll look at the role of professional in this context. Now we are talking about different acts that protect or govern the professional profession of town planner in Malaysia. We have Town Planners Act that make sure that only certain people to be called town planner. Not everybody can claim they are town planner. So basically this act have created or established so-called Board of Town Planners. Board of Town Planners work together with Malaysian Institute of Planners to give a training and to make sure that we have a competent professional and so on. So all these acts have to enhance the standard and also quality of our town planners. They have one manual for planning school and so on to follow and so on. And of course they govern only certain people registered that have ability to prepare plans in Malaysia. So not everybody can claim, even engineers or architect can say that they can prepare this master plan and so on. So they must be town planner, registered town planner. And of course the role of MIP is more of like a professional association rather than a board that govern the profession under the law. And of course what important is the process that we have to go through to get into the professional, and we make sure that only qualified people from our recognized school to be a member of MIP. And currently we have about 2,456 registered members, including those students, and also those can consider a professional town planner is a corporate, 576, and our fellow about 100. So this is active members, about 700 professional town planner. So that's why we rely on the young people. According to our record, 60% of our member is below 40 years. So meaning that we rely on the young professional town planners in the future. And of course you have a 6 planning school that produce about 150 to 200 student graduates every year. And finally, the way forward that we are looking into next level of planning, which is 4-tier planning, we call it micro planning, meaning that we are more into community based. So all our planning now geared toward community based in terms of rural and also urban development. So participation is a must in our plan, how the community will involve in our planning system. So that's all I think from my presentation today. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Sweet, for keeping the time. Thank you very much. I think we will take the question later in the discussion session. So if you have any question, please write it down and then bring it up during the discussion session. Without further ado, may I invite Mr. Onik Dash Mithun and Dr. Mahmoud Rashidul Hassan for the next presentation, Inadequate Open Space and Effects on Teenagers' Lifestyle. So if we, okay, who's going to present? Yeah, floor is yours. 10 minutes, I'll give you, 8 minutes, I'll give you a signal or something at about 6 minutes to wind up within 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. My topic is about inadequate open space and its effects on teenagers' lifestyle. It is a case study of Chattogram City Corporation area. Thank you. Background, about 17% total population of Chattogram are teenagers, and it is the largest city of Bangladesh. Open space plays significant role on teenagers. But due to globalization and urbanization, people are converting the open spaces into a variety of land uses such as residential, commercial, industrial. It is times demands to find out the effects of inadequate open space on the teenagers. My objectives. My first objectives is to explore the existing indoor and outdoor leisure activities practiced by teenagers. Second objective is to find out the gaps between the currently practiced activities and their desired leisure activities of Chattogram City Corporation area using multi-criteria decision-making model. Third objective is My third objective is to find out the effects of inadequate open space on leisure activities of teenagers in Chattogram City Corporation area. Here is the standards of open spaces in national and international viewpoints. Here is the standards of Dhaka Metropolitan Development Plan, Chattogram Development Authority, Khulna City Master Plan, and also the United Nations, the European Union also. Here is the study area map. My study area is the Chattogram City Corporation area, and here is the 11 zones according to the Thana boundary of Chattogram. Existing conditions of open spaces in Chattogram City Corporation area. Here is the standard of open spaces which should be remained in the Chattogram City Corporation area. First one is the 413 acres. But existing open space is 82.72 acres. So there is a shortage of open spaces, 330 acres about. Methodology of the study, terms description of the research. I have used the Dhaka Structure Plan 2015 to define my open space, and the teenagers definition is according to the National Adolescent Strategy 2020, and the lifestyle is according to a research paper. Here is the methodology of the study and the sample size distribution. I have used the Slovin's formula to distribute my sample size according to the zone to my sample size, and the total sample of my study was 400 teenagers. Among them, 60% were male and 40% were female. Analysis of objective 1. My first objective was existing the open indoor and outdoor leisure activities practiced by teenagers in Chattogram City Corporation area. Here is the graph of the teenagers. From the graph we can see that the teenagers usually get more leisure time in the afternoon than other portions of the day, both in weekday and the weekend day. This graph shows that from the above figures, it clearly seen that most of the teenagers, about 85% of Chattogram City Corporation area, is mostly involved in indoor activities on their leisure time, and only a few, about for 15% total teenagers practiced outdoor leisure activities. Sorry, I am feeling some technical difficulties. The pointer is not working properly. Yes, thank you. Most of the teenagers, about 93%, spend their indoor leisure activities by doing screen-related activities, and highest portion of the total teenagers, about 83%, spend their screen on time on social media like Facebook and YouTube, etc. From the graph, we can see that maximum number of the teenagers are not involved into any physical activity. Here is the objective 2, identification of the gaps between currently practiced and desired leisure activities about multi-criteria decision-making mathematical model. The ranking for practiced and desired leisure activities of teenagers is summarized into a ranking through index value calculated by the weighted scoring model of multi-criteria decision-making mathematical model developed by Stanley Jones. Here is the formula which I was used to collect the data and the mathematical solving. Here is the result of the formula. We can see that most of the teenagers of Chattogram City Corporation area are usually practice the social media in their leisure activities. But if we can see the ranking of the desired leisure activities, we can see that the outdoor sports are in the number 1 of their desired leisure activities rank. So we can see that there is a huge difference between their practiced leisure activities and their desired leisure activities. And on the below we can see the other ranking of their leisure activities practices. This study found that 52 teenagers, about 13%, who practice leisure activities are matched with their desired leisure activities list, and they prefer screen-related activities more than outdoor leisure activities. But the maximum number of the teenagers, which is 348 teenagers, ranked outdoor activities on first positions of their desired activities, but which does not match with their current practiced leisure activities. They prefer outdoor leisure activities more than screen-related activities. Here is the analysis of objective 3, the effects of inadequate open space related factors on leisure activities on lifestyle of teenagers. Here is the reasons mostly engaged in indoor activities of male. If we see the graph, we can see that the inadequate open space came to the first reasons. That's why the male teenagers are not involved in any outdoor leisure activities. And here is the reasons of the female teenagers. That's why they are not engaged in the outdoor leisure activities, and most of the zones of our study area came that the inadequate open space is also the higher rank in female case also. Here is the reason of mostly engaged in indoor activities of Chattogram City Corporation area, and of female and male both. The reasons is came that inadequate open space, about 55% is the reasons of their indoor activities. And it shows the travel time to reach their neighbor open space. And the travel time is high on the maximum time. That's why they are not involved in any outdoor leisure activities. Here is the relationship among the outdoor, indoor and physical leisure activity time. From the table we can see that if indoor leisure activity time increases, outdoor leisure activity time decreases. If outdoor leisure time increases, physical leisure activities increases. There is a strong positive relation. And here is the relationship among the indoor leisure time and distance of open space and travel time to open space. This table shows that there is a strong positive relationship among the indoor leisure time and distance of open space and travel time to open space. If distance of open space and travel time of open space increases, the indoor leisure time also increases. Here is the relationship between the mostly practiced activity and location of open space.
You have 1 minute.
Here is also the chi-square test and 5 halo. From the 5 halo, it can be justified that when the teenagers are not satisfied with the available open space, teenagers practice outdoor leisure activities. Summary of the findings. Findings 1. Majority of the teenagers are mostly passing their leisure time in indoor activities less than outdoor activities because of inadequate open space. Findings 2. Teenagers currently practiced leisure activities are different from their desired leisure time activities. Maximum teenagers prefer outdoor leisure activities. Findings 3. Inadequacy of open space influences the leisure time and activities of the teenagers. Findings 4. Inadequate open space systematically forces the teenagers who previously liked outdoor most diverting to indoor. Findings 5. Teenagers spend maximum leisure time in screen-related activities, which has a very negative impacts on the teenagers. So adequate open space should be created through proper planning in Chattogram City Corporation area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mithun. And very interesting finding that, teenagers' aspiration doesn't match with, or city rather cannot match with this teenagers' aspiration because of lack of open spaces. Maybe during the discussion session, the senior town planners can shed some lights how to create more spaces. And I see there are a little bit more presentation on the green structures and open spaces. That brings our third presentation, which is Blue Network and Integrated Riverbank Development for Urban Public Spaces, Dr. Abdur Rakib Khan and Devan Malik and Shurobi Kemelia.
Thank you, moderator. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Abdur Rakib Khan, My co-partner, co-author are Dhiman Mullik and Shruvi Camellia. Our paper title is Blue Network and Integrated Riverbank Development for Urban Public Space, a case study of Old Buriyanga Channel in Dhaka. We have a vision for the paper. Blue Network and Integrated Riverbank Development, restoring the natural functions of Adi Buriyanga Channel, enabling a vibrant, living, social environment and ecosystem for interactive people. Our planning approach are focused on development initiative on each side, including site beautification and potential for tourist attractions, save the river from environmental pollution, ensure navigation through, along and across Adi Buriyanga, provide the facilities to promote a healthier lifestyle for community people. Our research objectives are providing a blue network and integrated riverbank development plan for the Buriyanga area, providing recommendation for regulations and guidelines to maintain facilities. Our study area is shown in the map. The Old Buriyanga present alignment with length of about 6.8 kilometers. Buriyanga main channel at Bosila, West Hanbondi near Raya Bazar, and used for flow by the side of the Kalunagor, Hazaribagh and Hasan Nagar, Shohid Nagar, Muslim Bagh. The channel is located among ward number 22, 23, 24, 29, 55, 56 and 57 of Dhaka South City Corporation area. Next part we continue to Dhiman Mullik, please.
Thank you. Our research papers methodology to get a general intent Old Buriyanga area, a recognition survey and an initial inspection. Conceptualizing the planning procedure, survey and planning area was carried out to create a database and gain knowledge of the current circumstance. Analysis have aided in identifying potential landscape master plan areas and then preparation of Blue Network and integrated development plan. This is the current situation, pollution in this site. We visited this area, field survey, January 2023. Concept plans. This area we develop if the concept plan we ready. Mental satisfaction is the main focus because this area is very polluted in our previous session. Here, a round table with bench, drainage center, watchtower for site, quiet and natural space, utility service, some example, lighting pool, water supply, toilet complex, change room, fresh drinking water, basin, refresh center, otherwise security and safety, police, shifting, CC camera, first aid, medical center, dustbin, waste collection center, education and knowledge. This is important, sharing, library corner, intellectual center, information board, landmark, display board. There is a political leaders, poets, scientists, nobleman, etc. The biography here. Locker room complex is the main, it's on a plan. Others, recreation center, recreation activities, jobbing, boating, fishing, children park, landscape and forestry, tree plantation, open space, land space pocket, water quality and fresh air, cultural arts, music fountain, leisure show, art gallery, open theater, museum, communication and mode, circular road, bicycle lane, walkway, toy train, water boat, etc., parking place, boat ghat, bicycle parking, car parking, and others, exercise, fitness, gymnasium for male and female, jogging. This is the site is including develop the blue network area. It's our study area. This is the improvement of river ghat and water board. It's proposed in embankment and road along river. To be included facilities, we have already previous part. It is continuous. Environment and quality impact and social impact. Ecological functions of the river will be maintained or improved. It will encourage people to visit the river bank. Participatory planning process will encourage community ownership. There are general plan policies for recreation. First policy on conserve water bodies to enhance local aesthetics and make them source of recreation. Design water bodies with landscape and green belt, seating arrangement, walkways. Preserve green belt on both sides of conservable water bodies. Policy 2, engage the community in integrating water bodies into the river fabric, dialogue and motivation of users about the benefits of water body preservation. Enable current landowners to economically utilize their water bodies through fish culture, recreational uses and other allotted activities as outlined in plans. Establish the concept of the tree plantation and greenery beyond the old Buriganga area to maintain biodiversity and ecological balance and help reduce global warming. General plan, open space and conservation element, policy on preserve and repair and conserve ecologically sensitive place with distinctive resource such as plant communities, wildlife habits, unusual geology or physical characteristics, floodplain along creeks. Policy 2, preserve and expand open space along the Adi Buriganga River to protect water quality and appreciated recreational uses. Policy 3, preserve the quantity and quality of all water resources throughout the riverside. Please, thank you. Next presenter.
Thank you. I am Shurabhi Kamilia. And then the general plan parks and recreation element. Then policy 1 is provide a diverse range of park and recreational facilities that are responsive to the needs of riverside residents. And policy 2, implement the policies of the City of Riverside Park, Recreation and Community Services Master Plan. Policy 3 is distribute recreational facilities equally throughout Riverside neighborhoods for all residents regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, economic status or physical capability. And policy 4 is encourage the development of community-sponsored recreational opportunities for the trail and pedestrian system in Riverside. And then general plan, land use and urban design element. Policy 1 is increase the prominence of Adi Buriganga River by providing better connections. Policy 2 is create a network of parkways to establish stronger linkages between riverside neighborhoods. And policy 3 is providing a vital pedestrian, bicycle and vehicular connection to neighborhood and linking neighborhoods to park and other vital resources in the green belt. And then general plan is biodiversity, flora and fauna. Policy 1, find new and expanded uses for recycled wastewater to increase natural dissolved oxygen by using deoxidized aquatic plant and zooplankton. Policy 2 is deliver aquatic levels of storm drainage service to safeguard the neighborhoods from flood drainage danger while minimizing the discharge of hazardous or clogging items into the storm drain system. And policy 3 is explore innovative funding and development concepts with private business or non-private organizations. And then our goals are enhance a healthy lifestyle, a sense of community and the environment. So thank you for all.
Thank you very much. These are, as the principles, these are very good. Maybe in the discussion session we can highlight, the planners can highlight what are the current challenges and what is the reality and how to overcome the challenges. Thank you very much. Just a little announcement, our chair has to leave by 6 o'clock, so we need to juggle between the 3 papers next 20 minutes at least. At least we need to give 10 minutes to our honorable chair. Maybe we'll allow another paper before the chair speaks, maybe max 2. So can I invite Ms. Mohammad Hasibur Rahman, Mahmudullah Khan, Zaidur Rahman, Adil Ahmed, Asim Ahmed Anik, and Mustafa Sarwa for the paper they want to present, Status and Role of Selected Urban Green Infrastructure in Khulna City. Who's going to present? I think they are not present here, so shall we go to the next paper? Economic Valuation of Uttara Sector 10 Lake, a combined trouble cost and contingent valuation methodology. Mirza Muhammad Tasneem Mukarram and Mukarram Tahseen and Ashutosh Dash. Floor is yours.
Can I have my presentation on here, please? Okay. So thank you for giving me the floor. I'm going to talk about the economic valuation of Uttara Sector 10 Lake. Combined travel cost and contingent valuation method. Basically, it's a part of a very big research. It's just a small part we are presenting here, so don't be bothered about the results and the methodology part, because we have done very small analysis here just for the presentation. So I'm serving as the environmental engineer at 24 Engineer Construction Brigade, and my co-authors are Tahseen Mukarram and Anutosh Dash from Ruet. The pointer is not working. Okay, so let me talk about the introduction. As we all know that lakes are a very important source of natural resources for any local community, because it provides us with various facilities like water supply, recreational opportunities, and environmental services. But these lakes are also exposed to various threats like siltation, illegal garbage dumping, and encroachment by unauthorized structures, which are the regular problems that we see around the lake in our city. So our study area is just a small portion of Uttara Sector 10. Since I reside in Uttara, so I have decided to select this location as our study area. So this is just a small part of our original research work. So let's move on. Since we have less time, I'm going to shorten the presentation. So as we all know that the local community gets various sources of natural resources like water supply, recreational services, and many other environmental services from lakes. But these lakes are threatened to various problems. So this is the existing scenario of a portion of Uttara Sector 10 Lake. You can see that there are lots of garbage, there are lots of encroachments, and various problems due to siltation. And you can visually see that the condition is getting, degraded day by day. So what we did is, in this paper, we have combined two methodologies, that is the travel cost technique, in order to identify the amount of money that the visitors to the lake are willing to pay, that they spend on coming to this place for visiting this Uttara Lake. So we have used this travel cost technique, and we have also combined another one, that is CVM. We call it contingent valuation method, in order to determine the economic value for the ecological services. So what we usually see that people forget to value the ecological services that they are gaining from the environment. For example, the water, the oxygen, and various other natural resources that we are getting from our environment. So we have combined these two methods, the travel cost method and the contingent valuation method, so that we can get a very comprehensive idea about the total economic value of the Sector 10 lake. Sorry. Okay, so these are just the advantages, that we can get comprehensive idea, we can get more better validation of our results, we can get a holistic view, and it can help to integrate science into policy making and management level of, the decision makings that the planners or the high level authorities that they're taking. So as I have mentioned, this is our methodology. We have used two methods. We have combined two methods, the TCM and CVM method. And our goal was to integrate science into policy making framework to achieve, the SDGs, which has 3 pillars: the environmental, the economical, and the social. Okay, so we have surveyed a total number of 250 visitors through questionnaire and direct interviews in order to get the socio-economic and demographic factors that are influencing the willingness to pay. And we have determined the willingness to pay through this questionnaire survey. And we did our analysis using softwares like ArcGIS, SPSS, and Microsoft Excel for visualizing the graphs. So let me skip this part since we have less time. So there were a total of 250 surveys, and the statistical examination of the questionnaire data involved calculating the mean, median, and standard deviation of various characteristics to identify significant factors. And these are the zonal characteristics. What we did is we have divided the Uttara Sector 10 area into total 6 zones based on the distance covered. So based on this, we have asked the visitors that how much money you are willing to pay for restoring the ecosystem of the lake that you are destroying. And here you can see that the willingness to pay per year to improve the water quality corresponding to the percentage of the visitors, and we can see that almost 69% of the visitors are willing to pay around 2,500 taka per year for the improvement of the ecosystem of Uttara Sector 10 lake. And this is the demand curve. We can see that as we are proceeding forward, as we are increasing the amount of money, the number of people are also decreasing. I mean, the number of people who are willing to pay more are decreasing. All right, so this is the conclusion, that this study estimated the economic value of Uttara Sector 10 lake and using the willingness to pay method. And I think that one of the successful part of this study was that 100% of the participants in the survey agreed that the water of Uttara Sector 10 lake was absolutely contaminated. And among 250 visitors, 246 visitors expressed their dissatisfaction of the lake's water quality and the available facilities. And majority of the survey participants were they were asking for us to, to add some more facilities. For example, you can add swimming, boating, and other recreational facilities to improve the condition of the lake so that more people gets attracted to these places and people can spend more money to restore the ecosystem, to restore the water quality of that place. And the amount of money which we calculated through the WTP per year was 2400 BDT, that is 2,400 taka only. And the findings reveal that 69% of the total respondents expressed their willingness to pay an average of 2,331 or nearly close to 2,400 BDT. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Interesting case study. I would encourage you to talk with Dr. Inamul Haq from East West University. He runs also the South Asia Environmental Economics Network, SANDI. This will be quite beneficial for you because they have done similar kind of study, not only in Bangladesh, but in other parts of the South Asia. I think we can take one more paper before, if we can finish the next paper by 8 minutes. Can I invite Dipu Devnath and Sanjida Binte Ali for their presentation? Floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shipu Devnath, and here is Sanjita Binte Ali. We have conducted this study together. So our study topic was the participation of young people in sustainable planning and management for improving the quality of life. Sorry. Yep. Got it. So here's our study content. We have prepared a study with this background, methodology, theoretical framework, findings, discussion, and conclusions. So still it's not working. Okay, so let's start with the background. The role of the young people in sustainable planning and management cannot be underrated. Despite this, there are a number of obstacles that prevent the young populations in Bangladesh for participating in the planning and development. In light of this, a comprehensive study has been conducted to identify the effective strategies for engaging and empowering the young people to play a meaningful role to shape their communities and the wider world. There are two objectives of a study. So the first one is to find the barriers and the challenges that prevent youth people to contribute in sustainable planning and management. Another opportunity is to empower the young populations to shape their activities and find out the possible opportunities. Now we'll talk about the methodology of our study. The first step was the conceptualization. The conceptualization was about the study we have studied. There is a background study. The research approach was the qualitative approach. We have used the qualitative data for the research. The literature review was basically secondary literatures, and we have developed some data collection tools for case study, in-depth interview, and the documentation analysis. And the data collection was conducted from the targeted participants, and the analysis was conducted. Then the document was prepared. The document analysis was conducted by following those steps. Firstly, the records were identified through the database searching. The record was the duplicated documents were removed. The records were initially screened by their abstract and the titles. And after that, the full text articles accessed for the eligibility. Finally, the studies included the systematic review. There are different levels of these studies. Firstly, the theoretical framework says that the social environmental model, which is called SEM, utilized as per the theoretical outline of this study. The first layer was the public policy, which includes the laws, regulations, and policies. The second layer was the community, which is the local cultures, norms, values, and beliefs. The third layer was the organizationals, which is clubs, NGOs, and other organizations. The fourth layer was the interpersonal layers, which is like the peers, the families, the members. And the final layer was the individuals, which is knowledge, skills, and the attitudes towards this. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the findings of the study. There are, like as I said, there is the three sources of data, which is a case study, document analysis, and in-depth interviews. from the case studies, we found that the youth face obstacles to participating in the sustainable planning due to the limited opportunities, resources, and the recognitions, as well as the lack of knowledge. However, they wanted to encourage the sustainable planning and wanted to, they're likely to contribute and understand the concepts. Next, the document analysis, which is the findings from the document analysis were more or less same. The government has lack of policies and the regulations for the youth engagement in sustainable planning, and which is hindering their participation in the policy making. Most policies focus on the adults, neglecting the young people's unique needs and the participations. A study found that the young people face barriers like lack of awareness and opportunities, but the involvement in community programs improves their understanding and the engagement. And the in-depth review, we found that the young people identified challenges hindering their involvement in sustainable planning, which is basically inadequate information, lack of resources, and inefficient support that were significant barriers. And the engagement, the engaged in sustainable planning through the community programs, more active in shaping the communities, and tailored the policies, more opportunities, young involvement in the to overcome the challenges, and encourage their contribution in sustainable planning. So now my co-author will continue the next part, the discussions. I'm inviting you to take the place.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Sanjita Bintali, and now I'm taking part the rest of this paper. And as per our total analysis, and I want to discuss on our findings. That is, in sustainable management plan, the youth people face barriers to promote their thoughts and opinions in the society, and it could be seen in that they could overcome this problem by the societal environment model. And this lack of awareness and opportunities for youth participation and recognition for their contribution. And on the other hand, to empower young people, policies and programs should focus on their age basis, and every kind of policies and national level of planning should be emphasis on that kind of age group. And there is a multi-level approach for targeting all kind of levels, like which is we mentioned in the societal environmental model, like from individual to policy level, everyone. And by addressing these barriers, young people can take an active role in the society to shape their societies through sustainable planning and promote SDG and help their communities and society to achieve all SDG goals. Okay, now we on the point of the ending of our research paper, and that we find that the study explores the engagement of youth population in sustainable planning and management for improving life quality, because a fresh mind, because for young people think freshly rather than the elder one, and their thinking process is different from us. They think about the future sharply more than us. So to identify barriers such as lack of awareness, limited resources for them, and lack of recognition for youth contributors, because if there is no inspiration about their work, there is no interest there is no interest from their to participate in the social part. So I think there need to be recognition properly to participate in community part. To empower young people, the study suggests this: providing access to information, proper resources, skills, and supportive environment and their engagement in decision-making process, that they never feel out in this process. And the societal environment model and the empowerment approach is used to highlight the importance of different levels of the environment in involving youth in community level planning. And the study recommends future research on youth involvement in sustainable planning and development of framework for measuring its impact. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. You haven't highlighted the need for capacity development. I mean, maybe a topic during the discussion session, but now Dr. Nishat has to leave by 6, so we'll give the floor to the chair, and after he leaves, maybe we open the floor for more discussion. And there's one more paper, if they're available, then we can present. Dr. Nishat.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. My apologies that I have to leave earlier before the presentations are over. I thought this session would be from 4 to 5, so I would have ample time to go to the next place where I'm supposed to be there, starting around 7. I already have permission from our honorable guest from Malaysia that I can talk in Bangla. But I will go in a mixed mode. I will make 3 quick points. Point number 1, I had the privilege of working as a consultant in Malaysia, say about 30 years back. That was in Kota Balu and Kota Kinabalu and in those areas. And I stayed both in the urban areas as well as with the rural communities. This was an integrated rural development plan. It was an interdisciplinary team. But what impressed me, and I still remember distinctly, an aspect on which there is no work in Bangladesh and no thinking or no attempt in that direction, which is spatial planning. In those days in Malaysia, they had certain rice bowls where rice can be grown, rice would be grown with full support of the state. Plowing, harvesting, everything. Then they had a very crop of great economic value, rubber, and then oil palm. But you cannot change it. The state would decide in those days, I don't know whether it has changed. This is rubber growing area. This is oil palm area. This is paddy area. This is urban area. So road network, and one of my tasks was to develop the road network, including bridges and other thing. I felt amazed because this is kind of guided, they're not forced, but this is the guideline, because the state would provide support if the farmers follow their own rules. Through the Kuala Lumpur sit-in, there was a major drainage system. The consultants were CGIS, Bangladeshis. But have we a good drainage plan for Dhaka? Answer is no. And few days back we had a heavy rainfall, and which is a normal rainfall. I am not ready to put the blame on climate change. 130 millimeters of rainfall, all right. In the National Adaptation Plan, we have recommended that they should take 300 millimeters a day. So we have no planning. We have no allocation of space, country-wise, as well as in rural areas. With that, I move to my second point. Sorry, I'm still talking in English, which is, yesterday I was in Kathmandu, working with EC Mode. I had been going to Kathmandu since the 80s, so I have 40 years of exposure on Kathmandu. And believe me, the city was clean like anything. In the 80s and 90s, possibly Kathmandu was even dirtier than Dhaka. River Bagmati. I myself have seen the river had erratic boundary line and solid wasted poriman eto beshi chilo. I have seen myself a dog walking over the water. Yesterday, I was there for a week. Water was clean. Banks were well defined. Shohore bohu ghurechi. The areas I knew, I couldn't recognize. The roads are wide, very wide, with proper footpath on everywhere. So I asked a EC Mode friend, I was working with EC Mode, how it was possible. And his answer, the first sentence he said, one of their mayors was an urban planner. And he designed the city, laid out the roads. Roads were narrow, but he acquired land and forced the government to acquire land for him, and there was a 6 months time frame. By this time, you vacate your house because this will now be part of the road. You get your compensation, and he supervised the compensation payment. And if within 6 months, you do not vacate, you do not move out, government would come and demolish your house, and government would charge the cost of demolition. It worked. If it can work in Kathmandu, why it cannot work in Dhaka? আমাদের এখানে তো মনে হয় সব লোক থাকে, এর আগের বক্তা ছিলেন উত্তরার, আমার মনে হয় এখন সব কি দিকে থাকে 300 ফিট রাস্তার ওই পারে, মানুষ নাই, আমরা এলিভেটেড হাইওয়ে করছি, আর সব হচ্ছে এয়ারপোর্ট থেকে বোধহয় মতিঝিলে আসবে, এটা ছাড়া তাদের কোনো গন্তব্যস্থল নাই। পুরনো ঢাকার লোকজন কোথায় যাবে? মোহাম্মদপুরের লোক একটা রাস্তা আসতেছে সাভার থেকে, এসে মিরপুরে ঢুকে গেল, যারা মোহাম্মদপুর এই এলাকাতে থাকে তারা কেমনে যাবে? চকবাজারে যারা থাকে তারা কোথায় যাবে? So there is no planning, no understanding, there is no future projection. কাঠমান্ডু দেখে আমি অভিভূত, পরিষ্কার, একটা কাগজ দেখিনি, একটা বোতল দেখিনি, যে নদীতে যেটাই বললাম তাই না, ক্লিন। সো ইফ দে ক্যান ডু ইট, উই শুড বি এবল টু ডু ইট। তাহলে আমাদের মিসিংটা কোথায়? হোয়াট ইজ মিসিং? আমি এখন ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ নিয়ে বেশি মাথা ঘামাই। দের আর 7 words ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট। নাম্বার 1, অ্যাকাউন্টেবিলিটি। একটু আগে আরেকটা সেশনে ছিলাম, ওখানে একটু উল্টাপাল্টা কথা বলে এসছি, কারণ যারা কথা বলছিলেন তারা দে ওয়ার নট আপ টু ডেট। টাকা নিয়ে পৃথিবী বসে আছে, কিন্তু শর্ত হচ্ছে টাকাটা খরচ করতে গেলে অ্যাকাউন্টেবল হতে হবে, টাকাটা খরচ করতে গেলে ট্রান্সপারেন্ট ওয়েতে করতে হবে, টাকাটা পেতে গেলে প্রাইভেট সেক্টরের সাথে পার্টনারশিপ লাগবে, আর টাকাগুলো পেতে গেলে ইনক্লুসিভ হতে হবে, স্টেক হোল্ডার কনসালটেশন, তাদের সুপারভিশন লাগবে। এর তো 4টা শব্দ বললাম, আর 3টা শব্দ বড় ডেঞ্জারাস। আমি চেষ্টা করছি বহু সচিবের সাথে, বহু বড় বড় মন্ত্রী, পরিকল্পনা মন্ত্রী আমার সহপাঠী, সেই জন্য তাকে পর্যন্ত বলেছি, সুবিধা করতে পারিনি এখন পর্যন্ত। MRV, মেজারেবল, টাকাটা ওদের ফরম্যাট দিয়ে দেবে, সেইটাতে মাপতে হবে আর রিপোর্ট করতে হবে। আর ফাইনালি V, ভেরিফায়েবল বা নিউট্রাল ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট ইন্টারন্যাশনাল পার্টি। হিউজ টাকা দে আর টকিং অ্যাবাউট, বাট টাকা তো দেখছি না। কেন? কারণ আমরা তো দরখাস্ত করতে শিখি নাই। আমি ব্র্যাক ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে প্রচুর ট্রেনিং প্রোগ্রাম রান করছি এখন, দরখাস্ত লিখতে হয় কেমনে, এবং জয়েন্ট সেক্রেটারি, ডেপুটি সেক্রেটারি সাহেবরা আসেন, এবং এখন যে জয়েন্ট সেক্রেটারি, ডেপুটি সেক্রেটারি সাহেবরা উন্নাসিক হওয়ার কথা ছিল, তারা উল্টা ফোন করে আমার অফিসকে, তোমাদের নেক্সট প্রোগ্রাম কবে? সচিব পর্যায়ে প্ল্যানিং কমিশনের জিইডি কিংবা ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশনের যিনি সচিব এসেছিলেন উদ্বোধন করতে, কাগজপত্র উল্টালেন, প্ল্যানিং কমিশনে আয়োজন করছিল বলে আমি থাকবো, 3 দিন থাকলেন। এখন সচিব 3 দিন থাকলে আমারও তো 3 দিন থাকতে হলো প্রোটোকল পারপাসে। বাট দিস আর ওয়ান্ডারফুল থিং। ট্রেনিং নিচ্ছে, কিন্তু সেটা কাজে লাগাচ্ছে কোথায়? তো আমি অত্যন্ত আনন্দিত, দেয়ার ইজ এ গ্রুপ অফ গুড রিসার্চার্স, এ গ্যালাক্সি অফ প্ল্যানার্স প্রত্যেকটা ইউনিভার্সিটিতে খোলা হচ্ছে। এত কিছু শিখলাম, শিখাইলাম, কিন্তু বাস্তবে কাজে লাগাচ্ছি কোথায়? তার জন্য যেটা প্রয়োজন, গভর্নেন্স স্ট্রাকচার, ইট ইজ মিসিং। শহর ভেঙে 2 ভাগ করেন, 2 জন মেয়র, 3 জন মেয়র, 4 জন মেয়র বানান, তাতে কি হয় যদি তিনি কাজ না করতে পারেন? তো তাহলে এটাই আমি শেষ করছি। লাস্ট কথাটা যেটা ছিল, 3টা পয়েন্ট বলবো বলেছিলাম, সেটা দ্যাটস অ্যাবাউট ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ। আমি হাইড্রোলজি পড়িয়েছি এক সময় না, বুয়েটে 30 বছর পড়িয়েছি। ছাত্রদের বলতাম ডাটা কালেক্ট করো, 30 বছরের প্রজেক্ট করো, তাই না, বিভিন্ন ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন মেথডে যেটা ফিট করে, সেখান থেকে 50 ইয়ার, 100 ইয়ার, 200, 1000 রিটার্ন পিরিয়ডে ডিজাইন প্যারামিটারগুলো বের করো। আজকে বলছি, past is not the indicator of future. You have to generate your future through GCM models or appropriate modeling exercise. It's going to be erratic. এ বছর আষাঢ় শ্রাবণে বৃষ্টি হয়নি, গত বছর আষাঢ় শ্রাবণে বৃষ্টি হয়নি। মাস্টারদের তো গবেষণা করতে হয়, পেপার না লিখলে তাদের বদনাম হয়। আমি লাস্ট পেপার যেটা পড়েছি, জলবায়ু পরিবর্তনের কারণে রবীন্দ্রসঙ্গীত লেখাতে, মানে রবীন্দ্রনাথের কি বলবো, যে তার যে বিব্রতকর অবস্থা, তাই না? আষাঢ় শ্রাবণে বৃষ্টি হয় না এখন। ভাদ্র আশ্বিনে নীল আকাশে কে ভাসালে সাদা মেঘের ভেলা পাওয়া যায় না। ধান হওয়ার কথা না। আমরা ভুল জানি, গরম পড়ছে, বৃষ্টি হচ্ছে, ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি। যখন বৃষ্টি হচ্ছে না, খবরের কাগজে লিখলো হঠাৎ করে প্রচুর বৃষ্টি, জনজীবনে বিড়ম্বনা। আরে জনজীবন তো বৃষ্টির জন্য বসে রয়েছে, তাই না? সো think about future. Your planning may become redundant in 20 years' time or 50 years' time because many of the physical parameters would change. We have the national level document. Planners were involved. একজন তো দেখতে পাচ্ছি সামনে আছেন। So please, the world is changing. The field where you are going to apply your knowledge, these are also changing. Requirements are changing. So be up to date and be with time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable advice. আমি খালি স্যারের সাথে একটা জিনিস যোগ করতে চাই স্যার, এটা যদি একটু ক্ল্যারিফাই করে দিয়ে যান আপনি যাওয়ার আগে। সমস্ত কিছু ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ, যা কিছু হয় ওই কেষ্ট ব্যাটাই চোর, ওই টাইপের। এক্স্যাক্টলি, রাইট না, কিন্তু যে একটা অ্যালিবাই হিসেবে ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ সব জায়গায় চলে আসছে এবং সমস্ত প্ল্যানিং, সমস্ত কথাবার্তা, সমস্ত অ্যাটেনশন ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ নিয়ে নিয়েছে, যার ফলে আর বাকি কিছু আলোচনা হয় না। মানে এটা থেকে পরিত্রাণের উপায় কি?
মজার জিনিস হচ্ছে এই যে ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ নিয়ে এত কথা হয়, ওয়ার্ল্ড ইজ প্ল্যানিং টু মোবিলাইজ $100 billion every year. Why? Because there would be serious food shortage in 30, 40, 50 years' time. So all work leads to food security, migration, nature conservation, ecosystem protection, etc., etc. So Rakibul Amin is right. এখন ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জটাকে একটা এক্সকিউজ হিসাবে ব্যবহার করা হচ্ছে in case the planning fails. Yes, climate change is not the only thing. But what my appeal to you is that don't think what is happening now is what is going to happen in 20, 30, 40 years' time. The future is changing, is a dynamic world where we live in. এটাই আমি বলতে চেষ্টা করছিলাম। থ্যাংক ইউ।
ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে আবারও স্যার। আমরা স্যারকে ছেড়ে দিচ্ছি, কিন্তু সেশন শেষ হয় নাই, আপনারা একটু ওয়েট করেন। আরেকটা পেপার প্রেজেন্টেশন বাকি এবং আমাদের উন্মুক্ত আলোচনা বাকি, তারপরে আমরা করব। হ্যাঁ, একটা পেপার যার বাকি ছিলেন ওনারা কি এসছেন? দ্য প্রেজেন্টার, status of role and selected urban greens infrastructure in Khulna city. Are the presenters here? I guess not. Okay, so we continue our open discussion. I guess the presenter is not here. So, আপনাদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে, if you have any question for all the 5 presenters, you can raise. কারো কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে? একটু অর্গানাইজাররা একটু মাইক দেন ওখানে।
Thank you for providing me a space. My first question to our distinguished guest from Malaysia. How can you integrate your national policies and especially socio-economic policies or plans to your physical plans? Number one. And number two, how do you translate your national plans to local level?
Okay, thank you for the question. I believe that when you listen to my presentation now, just now, that we prepare our national physical plan for 5 years period. So now we already have a fourth national physical plan, rather than one from 2010 until now, or 2005. So we only have four. So what happened is every 5 years under economic plan, we have identified, for example, our national important project, or even project at state and district level. So because all money come from one single agency that prepare this national economic plan, which is economic planning units under the Prime Minister Department. So all money goes through that, the budgeting. But in terms of physical planning, it's under Ministry of Housing and Local Government, and the powers or the responsibility to prepare physical plan is under Town and Country Planning Department. So basically, these two entities work closely. So how to translate all this budgeting or project and so on into spatial location? For example, in National 5 Years Plan, Economic Plan, they identify new highways, for example. So in our physical plan should translate that into physical location. So they know that which state that have all this infrastructure. So we don't want also every state, for example, airports. In the past, when we don't have any physical plan, every state that we have 12 states in the peninsula, they want an international airport. But without proper planning, that everybody competing for same group of people traveling and coming, so it's not going to be working. So that's why they need to identify which state that should have in terms of distance, in terms of coverage, in terms of number of population and so on. So it's worked closely. And all this physical plan then translated back into state structure plan. Because we have 12 states just now, this state will implement in their plan. Not only those infrastructure, but also other sectoral. Because our national physical plan and also state structure plan is based on sectoral as well. We have tourism, transportation, or agriculture. So we include all in the same plan. So other ministries that have a similar plan, they can incorporate into our structure plan and national physical plan. And all this will be translated again at the local level later on. So that's how we do it.
Thank you. There are more hands? Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
We have seen a presentation, basically probably not research paper, there's a plan, Buriganga Regeneration Plan. All of we know that the plan, there's some challenges actually. Land acquisition is another challenge, and governance is another challenge. But we don't see anything about this plan, how they manage these challenges. Anyone else of the presenter? Here, they can answer my question. Okay. Otherwise, not that.
একটু মাইকটা ওখানে দেন।
To regenerate the problem, especially Buriganga River, there's a space issue. Land acquisition is a vital issue. Governance is vital issue. And how can manage the lands and how can accommodate the facilities. These are the issues we don't see in the presentation. How to incorporate these issues in the plan, actually.
I talk to Bangla in please. Basically, এই ওল্ড বুড়িগঙ্গা নদীর একটা অংশ, জাস্ট অংশ, এবং সেখানে বেশ কিছু দখল দ্বারা তারা দখল করে আছে। সাউথ সিটি কর্পোরেশন ট্রাই টু কন্ট্রোল দিস, তারা চেষ্টা করছে এবং কিছু দূর তারা এগিয়েছে, এটা চেষ্টা করছে। এবং আমি আমার প্রেজেন্টেশনের সময় একটা ম্যাপ দেখিয়েছিলাম, আমরা একটা প্রপোজ মানে যেটা ওল্ড বুড়িগঙ্গার অ্যাকচুয়াল চ্যানেল ছিল, আমরা চেষ্টা করছি সেই চ্যানেলটাকে প্রপোজ হিসাবে দেখানো এবং তাদের সাথে নেগোসিয়েশন কথা বলে দেখেছি। আমরা যখন এই স্টাডি পেপারটা করি, তারা বলছে যে আমরা ওই চ্যানেলটা পুনরুদ্ধারের জন্য আস্তে আস্তে কাজ করছে এবং সেই চেষ্টাটাই তারা আছে। এবং আমার এই রিসার্চ পেপারটাও তারা দেখেছে এবং সেখানে আমাদের রিসার্চ পেপার দেখেছে এবং তারাও ইনিশিয়েটিভ নিবে সামনের দিনে। তাদেরও একটা প্রজেক্ট অলরেডি তারা তৈরি করতেছে এটা নিয়ে, তাদের এই আইডিয়াটা তাদের কাজে লাগবে, এটা আমার কাছে মনে হয়েছে।
থ্যাংক ইউ। মডারেটর হিসেবে আমি একটু সুবিধা নিচ্ছি, সেটা হলো যে আমার কাছে মনে হয়েছে যে মানে যখন আমরা এই ধরনের প্রপোজাল দিব, আরেকটা পার্ট হতে পারে যে অ্যাকচুয়ালি উই আর টকিং অ্যাবাউট কমন প্রপার্টি রিসোর্স, দ্যাটস আ কমন প্রপার্টি রিসোর্স ম্যানেজমেন্ট, যে ন্যাচারাল রিসোর্স ম্যানেজমেন্টের যেসব প্রিন্সিপালগুলো বা এক্সপিরিয়েন্সগুলো আছে সেগুলো এখানে কাজে লাগতে পারে, মানে মাল্টিপল বেনিফিটস। যদি একটা অথরিটি এসে এটা রিক্রিয়েশন বা কোনো একটা জায়গা ক্রিয়েট করে দেয় এবং তার যদি অন্য কোনো ইউজ না থাকে, সাধারণ মানুষ আবার সেই জায়গাটাকে দখল বেদখল বা মিসইউজ এটা হতেই পারে। সো ওরকম যেমন কথার কথা যেটা একটা প্রেজেন্টেশন ছিল উত্তরা লেক নিয়ে, মাত্র 2,400 টাকা, ইফ আই রিমেম্বার কারেক্টলি, উইলিংনেস টু পে, যেখানে সব মিলেনিয়ার্সরা থাকে, যাদের কাছে 2-3টা করে গাড়ি পার্কিংয়ে থাকে, তো সেখানে তো মাত্র 2,400 টাকা, উইচ ইজ নট ইভেন কত $20, তারা খরচ করতে রাজি না। তাতেই বোঝা যায় যে লেকটার কি দুর্দশা অবজ্ঞা করছে। আনলেস অ্যান্ড আনটিল উই ক্রিয়েট এ গভর্নেন্স স্ট্রাকচার অ্যান্ড আনলেস অ্যান্ড আনটিল উই ক্রিয়েট এ মাল্টিপল সিস্টেম, মাল্টিপল ইউজ সিস্টেম, যেখানে সবাই বেনিফিটেড হচ্ছে এবং এটা সেলফ সাস্টেনিং হচ্ছে। একটা ওয়ান অফ দ্য এক্সাম্পল ইজ হাতির ঝিল। যাই হোক, আরও কোনো প্রশ্ন, যদি কোনো সম্পূরক প্রশ্ন কারো কাছে থাকে? I guess everybody is tired. আমি just খালি again abusing my role as a moderator, since I have the mic, so you have to listen. আমার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল, I have a question to you. You know, what really fascinated me during your presentation is that, like, coverage of the green area, the forest area. You mentioned that is part of the physical planning, which is almost really absent here. I mean, if you look at our cities, it's devoid of any greens. You know, seeing one of the presentation was urban green. I was really keen because I work in the green sector, so I was very keen to hear, but unfortunately the presenters are not here. And few weeks ago, what we've been tried is to bring the other synergy with other policies, like policies with environmental policies, international policies like Convention on Biological Diversity, and now recently the Target 3 of Global Biodiversity Framework, by which the government, including our government, our Prime Minister, as part of the high-level coalition to achieve 30% conserved and protected area by 2030, which is completely very impossible for Bangladesh unless we democratize the whole conservation sector. And in the plan, and urban greens can be part of that process, what you call conserved area, OECM. I know Malaysia is pioneer on this activities. How it's possible, that you have been, integrating these green urban spaces or green spaces in your overall special and physical planning?
Okay, thank you. So I would like to start with what I call it is at the national level we have study conducted by Town and Country Planning Department that identify central forest spine throughout the peninsula of Malaysia. So we have 4 big complex of forest reserve. This is a forest reserve. That means that the government have gazetted this as a permanent forest. So meaning that no other activity can be done. If the state government wanted to take portion of that land, they must replace somewhere that the same amount of land. So not just take it and convert it into development, then leave it less and less forest area. So what happened when they conducted the study, they also conduct the animal that live in that jungle. So it's not just trees, but also the animals, endangered animal, tigers, everything. They maps the location. So this forest pine can give area for all those animals to roam around the country. So not only the human, but also animal can move from one place to another. So what happened is when we prepare our structure and local plan, we have to look at whether our area affected or not. So if, for example, one district that it happened to be part of this central forest pine conservation area or identified as a permanent forest area, so no development will be taken place. So the plan that they prepare must in line with that. So no other proposal for this area unless for ecotourism. So they can use that for tourism purposes. And at the local level, usually we have this so-called planning standard and guideline for recreational area. So we have identified at state level and national level. The highest one will be national park. Then we have metropolitan park, city park, and all the way down to the neighborhood park. So we have all this in the system, and all development submitted for example, residential area, 10% of the area must be green. If not, your plan will not be approved by the local council. So no way that you can squeeze that guideline. It was stated clearly in our planning standard and guideline, and everybody have to follow. And why this must be followed? Because the standard agreed at state and federal level. So that's how we ensure that we get enough recreational space and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this is very good lessons learned for us. Any more comments or any more clarification from our presenters? If not, maybe we can conclude the session here. Oh, okay. Sorry. I completely forgot there's a discussant because so maybe last 5 to 10 minutes is yours.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my opinion, thoughts, and perhaps some questions about the very useful and impressive presentations. So first of all, I go with the keynote presentation. We have special interest on your presentation, as you probably have heard about our initiative to prepare a spatial planning framework for Bangladesh. So in this initiative, we have actually reviewed various countries, different kinds of spatial planning practices. In case of Malaysia, we have one difficulty, the language barrier in the literature. So many of the material that we were trying to access are in Malaysian language. So, but then we had some English material as well. So I have a number of quick questions, especially as the literature suggests. For a long time, Malaysian spatial planning was actually following the British system. After 1980s, there has been a break in British planning system. The structured plan approach did not continue anymore. So at that time, there was some challenge, and I guess that was something probably very good for Malaysia, because you might have come up with something of your own. So where did you change, and how are those things helping you? So that's first question. So that way we can know what aspects are actually, how did you respond to the new challenge? That's one thing. Another thing is when we talk about the national level plan, especially socio-economic plan, we talk about, we are curious about the role of state and the role of market in economic development and also spatial development. So how do, in your case, you actually draw the boundary between where the market plays their role and where state regulate activities?
And what are the explicit ways in which you deal with this challenge? Then another thing, third question, is regarding the sectoral, because you have, as I have sort of got an indication from your presentation and further discussion, is that there is good sectoral coordination apparently in your country. In our case, we see that agencies don't actually very easily yield to a coordinated and collective work. Rather, they are more into a competitive mindset. So it's very difficult to get them to agree to one common goal. So how do you deal with that? That's another thing. You mentioned that I'm going to the next question. You mentioned about standardization, there is no standardization at local level planning. So how about state level planning? Do all the states do their planning in the same way? And also, given that you said you don't have standardized local level planning, how do you deal with the local issues, and how, are you facing any difficulty for lack of standardization? So because before I go to the specific papers, maybe you may want to respond to this. Okay.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think what make our planning system unique after 90s, one of the reason because of sometimes something big happen will be blessing in disguise. For example, in 1993, we have one single tower collapse, not because of structurally fail. The engineer, architect designed the building strong enough to withstand anything, but the location that they built the tower is located near the water sources. So it happened that it's not because of the engineer don't know where it is water coming from, but the location, the slope, everything is not like in the proper place. So the building collapsed, killed 43 people, and including one of the Deputy Prime Minister's son. So after that incident, the government introduced and amend the Town and Country Planning Act to include this element of physical planning. So meaning that strengthen the role of environment, the planners, to ensure that all the plan must be approved and prepared by the town planners. So that's one thing that we have a blessing in disguise in terms of disaster happen in our country. Second, because of Asian financial crisis, that 1998, in 2001, the government amend again Town and Country Planning Act to include National Physical Plan. Why? In that amendment also to include National Planning Council that chaired by Prime Minister. So before that, Prime Minister don't know anything about planning. Maybe they can hear somewhere, but not as a council and chair the council. So now we use that financial crisis because so many projects abandoned. We have infrastructure project problem and so on, building oversupply, houses oversupply, not enough houses, but oversupply. It's lack of coordination between states. Everybody want to build highways, everybody want to build, the state want to build airports and so on. So there's no coordination at all states in Malaysia. So we need a national council to look into this. Then everybody should agree. If this council approve, then you can build. So that is one of the things. And next question, you are talking about role, state and market. I think this planning that we do in our country, in Malaysia, because of we have a legal framework that support that. Even, for example, recent cases with Kuala Lumpur City Hall and one with the general public. Actually, the resident filed the case to the High Court to review again approval given by the local authority, City Hall Kuala Lumpur, that allow green space to be developed as a residential area. And when they check, the judge look at the planning document, it was gazetted that area as a green. And what happened is developer get the approval from the mayor of Kuala Lumpur. And they reversed that decision that you are not following the gazetted plan. So our gazetted plan overruled what the mayor said. Now, every developers in Malaysia afraid that they cannot overrule whatever stated on the plan. So plan alone doesn't stand and can be challenged. But with gazetted plan, later on we can use that as a good planning tool to ensure that private follow what we have planned. So that's what I think. Few more questions, right? I think I missed. Just standardization. So what happened is, in terms of plan preparation, is all the budget come from federal government. So meaning that federal town and country planning department get a budget from treasury to prepare local plan, structure plan, everything. So everything must follow their standard, meaning that the standard of preparation and so on. But in terms of outcome can be different for each local authorities because the issues is different, the people is different. I mean, you can see the location and so on. But eventually, the plan is tailored toward that particular area. And you realize that most planning document in Malaysia now written in our Malay language because it's easier for local people to understand. We are not preparing our plan for other people to understand. That's what happened in the past. We have international agency prepare for our country that nobody in the local authority understand to read that. And it's so technical. Now we change that into more easier way of learning and understand the plan. And local people now start to read plan. And every time we have so-called involvement, the engagement with local people, they can understand better, rather than use technical languages that nobody understands at the local level. I think that's all.
So thank you. But on the other hand, just I get that sometimes you get some of your plans translated. So you have to keep in mind that people are reading your plans from outside. So in future, try to have them translated as soon as you can. So I just quickly go through the papers, just because I understand that we don't have much time. So the first one was on Chittagong City Corporation, open space. I want to congratulate most of the authors, I mean all of the authors, because not just because of the methods and the research that you have done, but also because you are asking the right question. So often we see that we are debating about issues that are not quite pertinent or relevant to our society and our pressing needs. So this is an encouraging thing and also very inspiring for us that we know that one of the biggest challenge in planning in Bangladesh is dealing with the open spaces, the green spaces and the water bodies. So we talk about a lot of things about planning, look into the debates that we are having. Not necessarily we are debating with them on the most important issues. So now that our youth are actually engaged with important questions, and also there is a paper about youth engagement. So this is also another encouraging dimension that active citizenship and participation in social participation is very essential for planning. Planning is a technical enterprise, but in order to make planning work, there has to be social engagement, there has to be citizen engagement, and that is something that is coming not from us, the senior ones, but from the relatively younger planners, and that is very important and significant for us. So I want to really thank the presenters for picking up the topic very wisely. So about the city corporation paper, I really think that the paper is very good, and I think one of the suggestions that regarding the talking to Dr. Enamol is very good suggestion, because these valuations like stated preference and revealed preference, there is a mix in the contingent evaluation approach. And I think this is very valuable for the case of ecosystem services in an urban setting. So this will go a long way. I think that with a little bit of effort, it can be also published in journals. And the next one about Adi Buriganga, I was having a bit of difficulty about following what is the current state of it. When you were talking about reviving or regenerating, what is the current state of it? Is there enough flow? Are the water polluted? We know sort of, because you are talking about Adi Buriganga, so there are lots of pictures of debris and waste. So if you want to regenerate it, is it possible to regenerate without stopping this pollution the process of pollution that is currently taking place, the current state and the desired state all needs to be clearly spelled out so that we can follow it properly. There has been a little bit of, my apologies for not being aware about exactly how the situation is, so we expect that those things can be cleared. And also, like there has been mentioned that this is a common pool resource management approach. This is very important to protect water bodies and green spaces. So there are lots of work, a theoretical level, like Elinor Ostrom has worked and got her Nobel Prize on common pool resource management. And there has been lots of applications after that about how to implement, because this is not just a technical planning problem. So there are economic arguments about how the institutions has to be designed, how the incentives has to be given. So those things need to be properly integrated in order to make the plan work. So it should not be just seen as a technical planning problem. So a more comprehensive approach could take you to a long way in implementing it as or even designing it as a planning project. I have already briefly mentioned about the, I think, contingent evaluation, the lake paper. That again is a very well-researched paper. So I might have my mind probably mixing up the papers a little bit. So, and then the participation of of the youth, it has been, it has also, I have mentioned it briefly, but the thing is, this is a paper which needs more work, especially in terms of defining the problem and what are actually you are talking about and what are you assuming. So the way the paper title and the problem has been defined shows that you are assuming the young people are very much interested to take part on these things, but this is not something we cannot assume. You have to see whether or not they are really interested, and if they are not interested themselves, then why are they not interested? So there is a larger social cognitive process that is working behind their interest. So we believe that there has to be more engagement. So where people are engaged, there are lots of climate action groups where youth are engaged, but in case of local processes, because we see that our society is changing very fast in terms of urbanization. So social formation takes a little longer, and perhaps there is a gap. So these things need to be properly addressed, like the social changes and how youth engagement are probably being hindered. So methodologically, a little bit more work is needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Plana Ekem Riazuddin, for your very thoughtful reflection of all the presentation. I really like the way you hinted about system thinking, not just linear thinking. I mean, this is what we need in now and in future. With this, I think, positive tone that our discussion has set forward, shall we finish for the day and we can resume tomorrow morning? Thank you very much, everybody, and especially the Bangladesh Planning, BIP, for organizing such a wonderful event. Thank you very much, all.